This panel is making a living on YouTube, since a lot of people always wonder how I can utilize this platform of YouTube, and whether you're a creator or a producer or any way you want to get involved in YouTube, just some ins and outs of how that might be possible. And the people all sitting next to me have various degrees of experience in doing just that. So before we start, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Jenny Powell. I'll be your moderator. I am head of content for VidCon, which is an online video conference being held in Anaheim from June 28th to the 30th. This will be our third year. Prior to that, I worked as a producer and various degrees of production on web series ranging from Lonely Girl 15 to The Guild. I worked for Philip DeFranco, who's a very well-known YouTuber. Pretty much a lot of the YouTube personalities I've either become friends with or worked with in some capacity. So I'm really passionate about this subject and this space. So just before we get started into the actual content, I'm going to let my panelists introduce themselves, starting with Randy.
Hi, my name's Randy Frank, and I've spent a good last 25 plus years putting brands together with content. So I've been in magazines, I've been in radio and newspaper, but the last 5 years I have spent working with the YouTube universe, including Jenny and Phil DeFranco, and had the opportunity to bring some really creative solutions to brands. So I'm here to talk to you about how brands and YouTubers can work together.
Hey, I'm Lauren Francesca. I am an actress-producer, and I've been making YouTube videos for like 5 years now. And yeah, I've witnessed and been through many viral videos, and had the amazing experience of meeting Jenny with Phil DeFranco and just consistently creating content.
Thanks, Lauren. I've also been around YouTube for about that long. My name's Kevin Nolte, or on YouTube it's Nults, and I like to say I'm not the best YouTuber or the best marketer, but I think I'm the only one that does both. So I've got a YouTube channel with like 250 million views and about the same amount of subscribers. And for me, it's not a full-time gig because I like to do marketing and help brands get online. But a lot of my peers, as Inside Edition last night showed, Dane Bowes, creator of Annoying Orange. And I'm proud to say I'm the voice of the knife in Annoying Orange, but I have not made $1 million out of that. I haven't made a penny off of that, but it makes me a very cool dad with my kids.
I'm Daniel Zaltzman. I'm evangelist, business development and partnerships at VU.com. It's a video Q&A site, and we are proud to have a lot of great content creators like Lauren and Kevin soon on VU, but also names. You're on it.
Yeah. I just answer irrelevant questions so nobody sees me.
Exactly. But we also have guys like the Vlogbrothers who organize VidCon, and Mitchell Davis, and Charlie So Cool Like over in the UK. So different names using the platform, and kind of that's my place here.
Awesome. So we'll just start. I have a very basic outline that I'm going to work off of in this today, starting with personality-driven content. So your Philip DeFranco's, your Lauren Francesca's, and then moving into scripted content in the premium channels, since there seems to be a real huge push now by YouTube to kind of push the boundaries of the content into more of a scripted, high-quality programming. Then we'll work in brands and advertising, which is Randy's specialty, and then talking a little bit about whether or not you should join a studio. A lot of independent creators are now joining with studios as a way to get easier collaborations, get support, things of that nature, and whether that is a valid thing or you should go ahead and stay independent. I'll try to wrap things up so that we have at least 30 to, well, probably closer to 20 minutes of Q&A, because you guys probably have some questions you want answered. So let's start with personality-driven content. This is how I got into YouTube. I was working in reality television in a job that had a lot of downtime, and so I ended up watching a lot of YouTube videos and came across Lonely Girl 15. Now, while Lonely Girl 15 is an individual example where it was scripted, I think none of us would deny that it was the personality of Bree, or who's played by Jessica Rose, that really drove the content. So kind of what do you guys feel about working as an individual in the space of YouTube?
All right, you want to tackle it?
It's an amazing space to be in. I mean, as an actor, I was always auditioning, and I got lucky enough to audition for Barely Political right after they launched Obama Girl. So, I mean, it's such a great space to be in, and there's totally lots of waves with it. So you could be doing super well one month, and then the next month, things slow down. But, the point that I think everyone talks about with doing internet videos is just to be consistent.
Yeah. So I think I think we're a good example of two different sort of flavors of creators on YouTube. Lauren, sounds like you're sort of going down the traditional acting route, and I was sort of an accidental web celebrity. I just started creating stuff, posting it on for friends and family, and then sort of hit it early enough that I developed a little bit of a following. But the world's changing, and I think it's kind of interesting now because, and we'll get to the studio question, which I think is a really important one. YouTube's growing up very quickly, and so you're seeing people. Phil's a good example. This guy Philip DeFranco, who, like a lot of us, were just doing their own thing, probably making very little money, and are now doing really well for themselves. But Phil's a good example, somebody that's adapted with the medium, maybe more than I have, and I think that's the thing to watch if you're trying to make a living off of YouTube, is to really not just see kind of where it is, but where it's going.
Yeah, and more people actually are contacting me, big producers of bigger projects, like Channing Tatum is producing a web series. So I'm getting contacted about, helping them do social media and, kind of crowdsourcing. And it's a whole different world and different space, and more people, as you said, are, starting to learn that space. So it's, important to start as soon as you can.
I think I'm now actually in brand partnerships at Aura TV, and one of the things that I have been successful with when I was working on my own with another company called Tadcast, but Larry King is coming back and he's coming online, and one of the things that's important to us is to have Larry King get some internet cred. So, and one of the ways that we're going to do that is we're going to have him visit people like Lauren, perhaps visit
Bring him
people
over.
like, do
Why isn't
something
he here right now?
fun. Oh, he isn't. He's coming tomorrow.
I'll make him look better than Lauren will. By comparison, I think he's
now
just
you
not
could
going to look
fight
that
about
great.
it. No, that's actually true. But I didn't say that. So I think that one of the things, what they're talking about is true. There's that opportunity. Some of it's paid, some of it's not paid. Some of it's just an opportunity to get some coverage and have a relationship. It goes across the board. Perhaps with a Phil DeFranco, if it hits Phil in the moment, he'll do it. If it doesn't, we may have to pay him or not. All of these things are possible, but it's amazing opportunities for reaching many different demographics quickly and having you see a personality in a different way.
And the industry is just so interesting to look at from any side, to be watching what's going on. And as Kevin said, Kevin approached it it came out of nowhere, and that's similar to David at the Dentist and Charlie Bit My Finger. And then you have people like Lauren and other people who actually really are set on, they see a career out of this, and they're going to go all the way, and they're really going to push really hard to achieve, stardom. But both ways kind of seem like they meet, and they both need to eventually start, marketing and start doing the right things, and they have similar practices. Because even those stories of like Charlie Bit My Finger and David at the Dentist, it seemed like those parents now, have to market their kids and the channels, and now they're making merch, maybe not, and they have to be making these brand decisions, which I'm sure Kevin and Lauren are doing all the time.
Sure. Did you hear that the father of David at the Dentist, is this real life? He patented or licensed that. Is this real life? And so that was actually pretty smart.
He actually, because I exploited my kids already, he somehow
might as
found
well,
me
right.
when that thing was starting taking off, and he was like struggling over email with this ethical dilemma of whether to let
David out there,
make
sure.
this thing. And I was like, dude, yeah. I mean, this kid's going to go to college on this. So I connected him. He got a partner, a counselor, who's able to start monetizing it. I haven't done the math lately, but David's going to college.
David's
on that.
going. There you go. Yeah. And maybe his brothers as well.
Yeah.
So let's move into now, I think, the big topic now, which is the YouTube Premium channels and how we think that this initiative is going. For those who aren't aware, YouTube invested $100 million into premium content. They doled it out in pretty much, I think, $1 to $5 million chunks to different either studios or creators themselves. I know that there seemed to be a kind of a mixing of these going to high-end studios like Electus, Alloy Digital, NBC See, I think, has one, and then also some of these personality-driven content creators that have established audiences on the internet. Philip DeFranco, I know we keep bringing him up, but SourceFed, he has a channel. The Vlog Brothers have 2 channels, which are education-focused, and the Fine Brothers have a channel that's music-focused. So how do we feel like it's going so far? We're a few months into it. Some of the channels have released. Some are still on the slate to come out, but...
Yeah, I just literally got here from the Association of National Advertisers, and YouTube presented and got that same question, and the answer was it's too soon to tell. I haven't looked to see if those channels are exploding yet. Have you guys got?
I have.
They are.
No.
So yeah, that wouldn't totally surprise me. Although I think it's in YouTube's interest, so they will continue to promote those channels. So they might have slow growth, but it's in
I think it
YouTube's
depends on
interest.
which one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there are some that are better than others. I mean, I've looked across everything from the racing car one, from Car and Driver, all the way to, maybe not specifically
Tony
Phil's,
Hawk.
but yeah, Tony Hawk's.
Yeah.
Nothing, they've got
Is it 'cause it
30,000, 40,000 subscribers, nothing explosive. Views, nothing explosive.
Because the content stinks, or it's just too
Actually,
competitive?
I think it's a little too competitive to rate. There's the push to it, which is why YouTube 2 weeks ago in the New Fronts said that they were going to commit $200 million in marketing. I don't know if that's in dollars or real dollars or a mix of the two. But whatever it is, they are going to support the channels because they saw, we'll give you the money, but the money that they gave them was not really enough to create the level of content and marketing. Because again, I just want to go back for one moment. It's become incredibly clear in my education process with TV people now that people who are online have to understand marketing. Whereas if you've been a producer before, now you didn't have to. You have to understand social media, you have to understand marketing, you have to put some money against it and figure out how to make the right connections and understand all the different algorithms or get somebody who does. So what happened with these is they all launched at once. They put out good quality content. Most of it is good quality content. But it's, a little bit like a tree falls in the forest. So there's going to be support. We'll see what happens. People will launch a little bit more. And, I think YouTube has always said they didn't expect it to be a home run across the board. We'll see.
It's a gamble. Yeah. And they seem to be really working on long-form content, too, which explains why some people that do daily vlogs of like 15 minutes are doing very well. It's in YouTube's interest to make that an important part of the algorithm because a user that stays put for a little while is not currently, but long-term going to be more monetizable.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And some advice I got from Ben Rellis when I started my YouTube channel, he was the head of Early Political, was that it takes a long time. He was working on a channel for, a couple of years before, it actually got noticed and kind of totally exploded. I mean, it did get on the news right away with Obama Girl, but it takes a long time to market things and to put things together. So I think that's why they said that. Yeah. YouTube is such a strange place. You could put up a video that you think is viral or that's amazing, but it just, unless you have the marketing skills or the team around you, it's not going to go anywhere. It takes a long time to kind of organize that and get a groove going.
And I think that's what YouTube is seeing now, is that they said, they're thinking, oh, if we give them what they've needed, which is, monetary support, that it would just work. And I think what we're seeing is that, no, just throwing money at it is not going to work. There needs to be additional support in place to help take these channels to the next level. I mean, you'll see some of the ones that are doing really well. SourceFed is doing incredibly well.
And it's fed by his other channels.
Exactly.
Which is a big part of what happens on YouTube.
And I would also venture to say that the shows that are doing well include interactivity into their programming. Yes. And I think Daniel, working with VU, I think you could speak on the importance of direct interactivity to this space.
So yeah, working in a video Q&A social network, you have to really know how to put all these tools together. You have Twitter and Facebook are important, and then you have these other little tools that you have, and you see Instagram, and then you have a VU, which is a video Q&A tool, and being able to package those and talk to your audience at certain times, and not necessarily all the time, but at the right times, is going to certainly make that what Lauren was saying. It takes a long time, but nowadays with all these tools, it's a little bit faster. Before it probably would take much longer. Now it's a little bit faster. Since you can have that constant communication with your audience and really get to know them as they get to know you, they stay with you, and they share it, and they grow, and that's really cool.
So it's this stuff, not money, that's developing audiences, right? Because you can't afford to promote your content online because you won't make it back yet. And that's kind of the advantage we had as early movers, is we didn't have any costs. So it wasn't important as to how much we'd earn back. So to the money point, I do think you're asking a question that will become increasingly more important, which is that, you know, whoever's got the most dollars to market will probably get the biggest audiences, assuming, you know, content's of a certain level. But if you look at Hank and John Green as good examples, now they've got book deals and they're doing VidCon and everything else. Their core fan base, you know, is a community, and they constantly are interacting with that community, and that's what drove audience development, not paid ads.
And it is interesting because everybody still thinks it's just cats and just stupid videos that do well, and it's not, because what Hank is doing, and everyone has done, Hank and John have done, they have a science channel that's doing very well, supported by their other channels, but not 100%. It's now doing well on its own. They're doing what they call crash course that I've loved. I actually sent it to my kid's 6th grade teacher to use as for their ancient civilizations course. So they're doing really fun YouTube-like work, but teaching on YouTube as well. And they're doing great, first of all, because they're supporting it the right way, but second, because the content really speaks to the audience, and that's a big part of it.
So how do brands get involved with this? Like, what do they see in this content that they kind of want to get a hold of, and what's going to entice more of them to come and support this space?
Right, that's a great question. I would say that the biggest challenge probably is that there isn't like a line item on the marketing budget that says, hey, let's go do branded content online. I wish that there was. I'm continuing trying to create it. I'm always pulling it from somewhere else, but there isn't that line. So it isn't like I go in and there's an avail like there used to be in television. However, I have been able to do quite a few successful things with some great content creators. From all the way, I'm going to just give 2 quick examples. California Pistachios was a very good one. I worked with the Wonderful Pistachio people who also have Palm Wonderful, and did that. And they had never done anything on YouTube. They did very interesting commercials, as you've all seen on TV, and they wanted to support those commercials. So when they came to us with a pretty reasonable budget, or when we got to them and they finally agreed to give us a reasonable budget, we were able to get into very creative discussions about how to do integration, not just 15-second pre-roll that people can skip, not just a link at the thing, not just, oh, Wonderful Pistachios are so wonderful, nothing like that, but an opportunity to create content that actually was around the concept of Wonderful Pistachios and what you like about them or what you don't like about them, right inside of the creator's purview. So all of it was, we used everybody. We didn't use Phil. Yay. We used Brittany Louise Taylor, who has she has almost a million subscribers. She got 1.5 million views. She did a really cute little rap and dressed as a pistachio in a $5,000 costume. I'm not kidding.
You're kidding.
I'm not kidding. And she's like really tall and thin. I have no idea who's ever going to wear that again, but we sent it back. $5,000. And
she paid for that?
No.
Okay.
They paid for that. They were measuring.
I would have done it for free for a $5,000
No, really, it was
costume.
you're not kidding. They were measuring her point from the ear to the neck, and I'm like, what do you want, her spleen? I don't know what they wanted, but she was adorable and did a rap. We had everybody from Mystery Guitar Man who did his special brand of editing and cool music, and we did it across 6, and we did Real Annoying Orange as well, and we were able to get 8.5 million views. So they knew, they've come back many times to discuss many different things. We've worked on small influencer campaigns, but the idea was we did 6 producers across small to big, and we were able to be very successful and make people understand this can be done in a really good way that everyone feels good about.
I feel like that's a super important side of it. I went to a panel at South by, and it was Intel sitting beside Wheezy Waiter, Craig Benzine. And they were sitting side by side, and it was a panel with so many just marketing people who just very new to the space, and they were like, why him? Just like that was kind of, all the questions were basically why Wheezy Waiter? And I think they got the idea after the whole entire session because Craig is just hilarious, and he was entertaining everybody, and he's just an amazing guy. But it's still kind of tough to figure out why Wheezy. I mean, I would certainly pick him any day. But I think that it's important to kind of what you did, I think, was really good is that you don't just go after the big guys because everybody sees right through that. And all the names that, the Annoying Orange and Mr. Guitar Man and BLT, those are all people that we know. But, having some people that, some niche fans and they feel like, I'm one of this person's first fans. Because right now I can't say that I was Mr. Guitar Man's first fan because he's been around for such a long time. But I do have some of these guys that I know are going to be coming up big soon.
Absolutely.
So if those guys are doing some kind of thing, I'm definitely going to sign on to that brand and definitely follow along.
Which is the key to what you're creating, because I do that now too. I'll recommend people a Flula Borg, or who is so innovative and hysterical. And when you're inside of that, his people interact with him all the time. That's the key for the brands I'm talking to here, as well as the creators. His people, he may not have millions, although he can get them, but he has that interaction that's more than some of the people who have millions, and that's the other thing you're looking for.
So this session's about money, so it's important to note that the dollars you get are from YouTube or not paid by YouTube. You get a percentage of the ad revenue, and it's chump change. We're talking, a couple bucks per 1,000 views is what I've seen. And anybody that's been online advertising knows that that's pretty low for the degree for the type of ad. If it's a display, that nobody looks at, but if it's a pre-roll, it's worth a lot more than that. So we know that's changing quickly as the projections for shift of online spend, from television dollars. We're seeing dollars significantly shifting. If you look long term, and so what does that mean? That means that the competition will increase and brands are getting very, very interested. But paid is just one way in. There's also earned and sponsored. And, by earned, I mean like trying to create something on your own and have it take off like viral. I don't usually advise that. It's really tricky. But the sponsored stuff that we're talking about, where you take somebody that's already got an audience and you work your brand message into that, increases the odds dramatically because the viral, there's a YouTuber that just said it on one of the live Sheila Lazar shows that hitting viral is like getting struck by lightning twice while a squirrel humps your leg.
Oh, dear.
It's true. So brands are, I think, savvy to the fact that they need to get more creative, treat it like another vehicle of social media, but also,
And you have to understand, any of the creators as well as the brands, that it is a bit of a high-touch thing. You can't mechanize it and automate it. You have to actually work it out creatively. But when you do, it's really successful, and I think that's an important thing as well.
Yeah, it's definitely very cool. I've gotten a lot of opportunities. People basically giving me, comic book deals and, telling me they want to help promote their movie, to get their movie into movie theaters. So it's a great space, and there's tons of ways to utilize it if you promote yourself the right way.
Well, and I think that kind of leads into, if you feel like maybe as an individual you don't have that capability, when does one consider whether to go with one of the studios, such as Maker, The Collective, these management/production companies that kind of have sprung up that are trying to take the individual creators, put them together under an umbrella with the hope that they can collaborate with one another, they can offer support. There's some pros and cons to choosing that route. So let's talk about that for a few minutes. I know, Laura, are you with anyone? I know you've considered it.
I've considered a bunch of different options. There's so many. The problem is that there's so many great companies out there that manage amazing, and there's so many amazing people. And right now, being everyone's getting involved with doing internet content, there's about 10 more companies being formed as we're talking right now. So it's just like, which deal do you sign? Do you want to give people all of your IP? Which basically says if I book a TV show or do something else, they have a percentage of that. As if I'm doing a character or whatever it is, and it's just, do you want to sign those specific contracts? And you just have to be very careful. So I would just advise getting entertainment lawyers to look everything over and just totally making sure that you know what you're doing or who you're going with. And then, a lot of these companies, they're great. They have a lot of people, but, they have a lot of people who have over 1 million subscribers. So are you, another concern is, are you going to get lost if you're just growing and starting your brand? And, are they going to promise you the world and then you're going to sign a contract and then they're not going to call you, So, I'm still thinking about it. We'll see if it just, everything gets super busy, but Phil DeFranco, what does Phil DeFranco say? He doesn't He doesn't believe in it.
He doesn't, except then you went to revision 3. So
Oh.
He doesn't what?
no.
He doesn't what?
he went to revision 3.
He's with revision 3, but that deal.
Now he works
they
for
do
Discovery.
Yeah, but they also, it's a special deal where revision 3 does not own his
Right.
IP.
Right, he didn't give
He
up the IP.
always keeps his IP. And honestly, back in the day, Phil was an original founder of Maker.
Yes, he was.
It's just he learned that that was not the route he wanted to go and chose a different path, and it's been very successful for him.
I'm going to say that we're dealing with the many different kinds of creators out there, working with talent in all different parts. I would say that there are people like Lauren and Phil and some other people who do an amazing job of promoting themselves. You know, they can do it. They get them, they go show up at other people's studios and do cool collaborations and have fun and show up at parties, and they know how to do it. There's other people who just want to be there and make their stuff. Yeah. And they might be happier at a studio. Or we also call them creating networks. So the idea is that they have an opportunity to have people go out and sell at higher CPMs to the advertising agencies and get better than $2, maybe they'll get $3 CPMs and be supported with their audience. And they don't have to do as much of that. That's the hope. It isn't always what happens, you know, but that is the hope. But I think the people who are successful at on their own have been pretty happy they stayed on their own, because it's been hard for the people who've chosen it and not been able to take advantage.
Yeah, I signed with Next New Networks, Ben's thing, and then they got acquired by YouTube, or got acquired by Google, and then everybody was free. But it didn't make a big difference for me. I mean, it took me days to go through the damn contract, and I don't know what the upside was. That being said, while I'm still concerned about the financial viability of these studios, it's a natural evolution of the medium.
Sure.
You know, I mean, there's a reason that there are multiple intermediaries. The sort of go solo, you know, don't need an agent, don't need a marketer, just do your own thing on YouTube. I mean, I think that day's sort of passing. But again, the models are different. But the way the studios generally work is initially they would take a percentage of your dollars. Now they're kind of saying, okay, we're going to leave you alone wherever you are, but we're going to take a percentage of, you know, the incremental views that you get. But the fundamental question comes down to, can these guys either grow my audience or help me make more money? And none of the studios yet have proven that they can command more dollars for your views than you can directly through YouTube, unless I'm mistaken.
No, some have done a little better. I know Big Frame does a little bit better.
Oh, is that right? Well, yeah, George, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, there are the ones that do it.
Big Frame George?
Big Frame's not George. George is the other. So I will say
that's music, that's why.
Some of it.
Yeah.
Some of it. And they also have their own premium channel. I would say that a little bit, like again, let's say we go from 2 to 3, which is certainly 50%, not bad, but still not going to send your kid to college. So I think what I completely agree with you. It's a natural evolution, the aggregation, and of course coming from advertising now, you know, all these years. But the idea, the next step, is them hiring salespeople who really get out there and start taking more of the TV dollars and more of the internet dollars towards the YouTube. So the concept is, can the salespeople go out there and pull those dollars into this, which will help everybody make more money? And the aggregation, you can't get your own salesperson, you know, and that's the idea. When you aggregate them together, they can hire people, they go out, send more money, and everybody wins. That's the concept. It isn't happening
YouTube has
yet.
not done a very good job, and I don't think they'd be insulted by this, of you know, selling their own space. I mean, Google, if you think about it, really didn't have to do much selling. You know, it was a self-serve model, and their reps were kind of there to babysit big accounts. But this medium, because it's new, requires, you know, really strategic consultant, you know, salespeople, and that's something YouTube hasn't resourced well in the past, although that's changing. So that's kind of a niche where the intermediaries are able to fall into.
Right. Any final thoughts before I open it up to the audience for questions? Oh, or maybe we should just do that.
Yeah, do it.
Two-part question related. Do you find that YouTube is turning its back on the original personalities? And two, is this all wishful thinking in that the YouTube audience will probably never care about the super premium flashy stuff that YouTube is going towards? And the marketers will never overcome that stigma that YouTube is cats, fair or unfair, that it's cats and dogs following you on skateboards. And in the end, they'll burn all this money, which they can, but it's wishful thinking, and we'll look back saying, oh, that's like, you know, flying cars. It was a fad, people thought this would change, but in the end, look, new shiny toy.
Yeah, so he's asking if we think that YouTube is kind of turning away from personality-driven content? And then additionally, do we think that that's just wishful thinking about putting all this money into premium content?
I don't think it's turning away. If you look at, some people who are doing really well on YouTube, it's people who are actually relating, like SourceFed, who are, having great interaction with their audience. And, I don't think it's the fact people think it's turning away, but it's really that it's just getting harder because more and more people are realizing how amazing YouTube is. So you're getting more and more competition. So it's just, being more consistent and kind of saying, okay, I have to interact more with fans, than I used to before.
I think also the premium content, the one thing that they do have going for them is certainly being a part of Google, is with the premium content, the idea is that they're not just going to have the YouTube audience. The idea is that YouTube is going to be a viewing platform for many more than just the 14 to 24-year-olds. And we're going to pull them in, which is going to create more impressions, which is going to create more money. And I don't think it's wishful thinking. I just still think they have to really come up with tactics, keep to their strategy, come up with good tactics to make it happen.
Yeah, I would bet on YouTube figuring it out, but not without stumbling and pissing some people off. I think there's sort of a community of hardcore YouTubers that are like, oh, where's it going? I don't like all this professional stuff. But then there are a lot of people I know that would never give YouTube a chance except for diving into a cat video. But the future version where we don't use the word online video, but you just have a device and you're watching on your HDTV and it kind of feels like Google. You're very search friendly and really interactive, and you can it's integrated with your social media. And that's all stuff that we need to get to be able to attract that sort of mainstream audience.
Well, yeah, it feels like the speed bumps are now. Like as you were saying, some of these channels aren't picking up yet, but they're going to be learning right now. It seems like this is the time to learn, and when they go out with that big budget to market it to a bigger audience, I think that a lot more people are going to be coming to YouTube, and mobile's blowing up, I
mean, they could write off the whole investment on creators as just keeping people happy and not appearing like a threat. Yep. Because what are they doing here? They're not paying for content. They're enabling creators to put content on there that the creators own. So they don't want to look at that. They probably can't from a legal perspective. It goes back to the Paramount lawsuit. So they're kind of a platform, not even a network, and certainly not a content owner.
Yeah, hey, Kieran from Vidcaster. So I want to combine a couple of questions that we've heard here. One thing that I've been seeing in the industry is that maker studios hire the CTO, and the CTOs build things, right? And we heard from Vivo that they were rumoring about getting off of YouTube as a platform. Yeah. And so kind of building on this question about where are you going to get the highest CPMs, for better or for worse, a lot of those ad buyers look at environments like Hulu that is completely controlled as a high CPM environment. And again, for better or for worse, there's a lot of perception that YouTube is a low CPM environment. So I'm curious, because you guys have this direct experience, are you seeing a trend of the other producers going toward their own property?
It's hard as hell. It really is.
Like, what's that balance, and is YouTube supportive of this?
So it's an additive to your YouTube channel, but unless I'm mistaken, I don't think anybody's gotten significant traffic off of YouTube. That was my initial strategy because I had figured out a way to monetize my content on a site called Rever. And so I was like, okay, my YouTube strategy is to get people the hell off of YouTube and come to Rever. And it never worked. And even with the brand campaigns, the best hooks, you do a sponsored video, and now go to this website and you'll see the second half of the video or the outtakes. Those still command low single-digit, conversion rates. So it's just kind of wishful thinking. There are big providers, College Humor and Smosh that have been able to create something of a little adjunct business.
But they're still utilizing YouTube as part of it.
As part
well.
of it. Sure.
Like,
it's additive,
I don't think anyone has gone completely off of YouTube.
The people tried to jump. They're like, screw YouTube, we don't need it. We can develop our own audience on live, whatever. And it was a colossal failure.
Just the stat, the percentage of producers that have their own and operate site went from 57% in 2007 to 18% in 2010, and right now it's going 5 or 10%. It's YouTube, whether you like it or not.
I was wondering, why do you think it is that people do not see that it's just obvious that if you put some, like, why did YouTube launch this whole thing and not put what's obvious marketing dollars? It seems to be a common thread between all of these channels today, is that just like if you made a movie and nobody marketed, the Avengers had not been marketed, we wouldn't know it was there and nobody would have gone to see it, it would have made $1 billion. I don't understand why the internet community doesn't see that.
I think they see it. It's just taking time. Like, they have increasing amount of salespeople pushing YouTube. They've got new offerings that they can sell ad inventory at a higher premium. They're bringing in professional content in part because they know that advertisers will be more comfortable with that. And I think eventually they will give creators or mini networks on YouTube the ability to market their own inventory. So I could create my little media property, but not have to worry about HTML programming.
And I think from an individual creator's standpoint, I think a reason why a lot of the early adopters are having a hard time realizing that they're now at the point where they do need to start looking at outside marketing is that when they started, they were taken advantage of. Like I know a lot of early creators that they were doing really well, and then people came out of the woodwork offering them deals and that they got burned. So I think from that point of view, a lot of the individual creators are distrustworthy and are kind of like, well, I've been doing just fine on my own. Why do I need that? So I think there's that level to it as well.
I also actually think there's something in the DNA similar to what I'm saying about how when they create media plans right now and the big percentages of dollars to still online versus TV, there's just still something. People don't change very quickly. I wish they would as much as we love it, but the shift is a little bit like, a mountain.
It's also, when you want to grow an audience, and that's what they want to do for these channels, you can't just, pay to advertise and get a bunch of clicks, you know what I mean? It's interaction and finding things that that people are actually interested in, and it's
But that's true of all media.
Yeah.
That's true of movies, that's true of TV. Again, it's the same marketing thing to get people, because some people are on their phone, on their tablet, watching something on TV. Everything's going at once.
It seems like common
Yeah,
sense.
but
It
an
does.
audience that would be okay with driving down the street and seeing an Avengers billboard would not be okay with driving down the street and seeing Hank Green on a billboard. They would immediately go, "Oh, he's sold out,"
Yeah, that's
and
a
turn
little
on
issue
him.
too. That's a little issue to YouTube.
Yeah, so it's a very different environment. So I think both sides are trying to adapt to the other, and
But I think that's a small group, because you figure there's such a large percent of people that don't even know who's that. Like, I don't even know who you're talking about.
So
Like him.
So the people who are consistently watching YouTube videos who are clicking ads are mainly like 18 to 24-year-old boys. So if you are advertising, you have to find things that they're interested in, and some people aren't going to be interested in like the new mom's channel. That just, you know what I mean? And it's just going to be waste of money. So I think they're still like, Kevin said, they're figuring it out, and hopefully they'll figure it out, and maybe you can come up, or we can think of an effective advertising way. If you have any ideas, let me know.
Tim.
Are there any trade organizations or web series creators who get together?
I think do you already know the answer to
I
that?
think Tim Street knows
Hi,
the
Tim.
answer to that. Tim Street and myself sit on the board of directors of the International Academy of Web Television, which is an organization that is trying to be a place where we can have these types of conversations. Like, how can we drive our industry forward? How do we successfully integrate marketing campaigns and all that stuff? So anybody who's interested in helping create those dialogues and keep them going forward, I really urge you to take a look at the organization. You just have to visit iwtv.org. I think a couple of you are on it. I'm not sure. I think Randy is. So thank you, Tim, for reminding me.
He's a plant.
I actually didn't know he was there until I saw the hand, and I went, "Oh, Tim, hey." In the back.
Well, I think that one of the things, with regards to the question that's been asked about why YouTube isn't taking the steps to promote a lot of this stuff, do you think maybe there's some of the thinking that they're careful about wanting to keep from killing the goose, so to speak? In other words, if they start promoting too heavily the content, the new content, then that would have people come to YouTube and bypassing directly all the other content and all the other people that are coming in. Do you think that they're trying to stop competition, or is that even a factor?
So he's asking, do we think that YouTube is trying to stop competition, or
Well, they don't want to have that channel.
that they don't want to have the premium channels take over what they already have going for them?
Too heavily with the other.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a perpetual balancing act. Like YouTube, when it first started to pay people, it kind of had to figure out how not to erode the sense of community. And I think it's YouTube's growing up. Like, you can complain, but it's going to happen. And so I think that in their efforts to attract a wider audience, keep them on longer, provide long television, get advertisers more comfortable, get Hollywood, up to speed on it, they're going to probably alienate some of the, the core community people. Will that hurt them? Yeah, probably for a little while. But I don't know if that's, something that will. I think the benefit to YouTube will overcome that casualty.
And I think the reason why these steps are happening in sequential order as opposed to all at once is they are trying to gauge that out. Like, because I remember when a lot of the people received their premium channels on all levels, they were all surprised that they weren't getting any marketing support. And I think they vocalized that, and we can see that Google has responded. So I think they are listening, and they're trying to figure out what they are doing. And we'll see how that pans out.
Now you can get a YouTube partnership easier than you can get a credit card.
So moral is everybody go home, start a YouTube page, become a partner, and get started.
Well, the trick is if you're actually here to consider whether you can make any money off of YouTube, the key thing is, find an untapped niche. Don't try to create the next, these guys. Go for something really concrete, unique. And then the other thing, too, to consider is content that will be worth a lot to advertisers. So by that, I mean like an industry focus. Mom's channel, great content? I don't know, but advertisers are keen to get around mom content. Mm-hmm. So look for something you love to do that you think is an unmet need that can also attract ad revenue.
Okay, last one, and then we need to wrap up. Sorry.
So I have a blog called Will Video for Food, where it was initially designed to help people monetize it, and people keep asking me to try to explain this in a blog post, but I keep delaying it because I get more and more confused. But effectively, I think what's happened, and tell me if you guys may have a better answer. Yeah, so there was sort of the initial partner round, which was like they handpicked a few dozen creators. Then they sort of opened it up to top several hundred. And then what's happened is that my dog's account got an invite to monetize like 6 months ago. So they're constantly they want to monetize. They want to make money on the long tail. So it's in their interest. Now, what's a little deceptive is we still call it partnership, but in fact it's a lot of different tiers.
I'm monetizing right now, but I'm not a partner.
Yeah. So that just means that you. Yeah. It's just. You can't, maybe you can't have some advanced functionality, and maybe you're not making as much on a view, but I think there are just sort of lots of little iterations eventually that will come along with that.
Yeah. No, well, you can email. I think it's support@partnersprogram.com. There's a YouTube group they have one on Facebook that's really cool, and they also have like one of those Google groups that you basically, you get emails. I get like 50 emails a day from people who are partners. So, and you see different questions. So that's just one of the questions that I've seen is a lot of people are asking about that because once everyone became partners, they're like, oh my God, I'm a partner. But then they realize, oh wait, I'm not a partner. I don't have the same homepage, and I can't, put those icons up there. So if you join the group, I'm sure I'm pretty sure it's partners, something at partnersprogram.com. So. You can join the Google group, or you can email me. I can find it in my email.
As far as you guys know,
so I think the age-old strategy is just keep trying and get. And so what gives you leverage is having a lot of content and having an audience.
Yeah, and another thing they look at because do you post consistently? What kind of views do you get? Some people get turned down. Once they apply to be partners, but if you post consistently and you get a decent amount of views. But you can email them. You can email them and see if they can.
They're not taking applications to be a YouTube partner.
It's because they want to minimize the number of relationships that they have
Yeah.
to manage. That's the key. He's right. You're going to monetize, you're going to make money, but everything else is like an extra touch point. So when they need to change partners, update contracts, having a gazillion, they want to monetize the long tail, they don't want to manage the long tail.
Yeah, it wasn't scalable. Initially,
So it's possible that you don't become a partner, like an official partner, until you have a lot of views and it's worth the hassle because YouTube doesn't like human beings. That's why they go on YouTube. That's why they
Google doesn't like human beings.
They just don't want to manage.
That's a quote of the day. Get that on your blogs. YouTube, Google does not like human beings. I did not. Don't attribute that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Well,
I written that in an article, so
It's okay.
well, hopefully these guys can hang out for a couple more minutes after this. But thank you all.